just thank you for taking the time coming here, and both the choreographers as well. Let me just introduce them, and then we'll start our conversation casually. This is Verena, and Sebastian. Is my German okay? Anyway, so I don't know if some of you attended the performance last night or the day before. I was there last night, and my impression was that it was very disturbing. It was actually almost like watching the horror movie for the whole an hour and a half, and so it was quite confronting. And I never been to a theater performance that I felt uncomfortable the whole time. So I think that was really a psychological effect. But it's still fantastic, but at the same time very disturbing. So what are the, because you have to train for this, you have to think about the, what you put together, and making your team going through the brutal experiences of all of this. So what is the idea behind the performance?
The idea, I think our approach is usually when we make a performance to look at what surrounds us or what's happening in reality that surrounds us. And so, of course, violence is something that everybody deals in some way, or that is confronted in one or the other direct or indirect way, or has an image at least, or an association to. It's of course in the media, but also, some people of course have a very close relation to violence as well. And then we always have, it's a very physical or body-related approach that we usually have. We work with performers, of course, so their bodies are what we work with in the first place, in a way. And in this piece also, all of them are dancers. They're educated in dance techniques, and so of course we thought about who can we ask? When we ask, they are all freelancers, just like us. We work together most of the time as a duo, and then we ask people to be on stage for projects. And so we think about who would be interested in working on that topic, in that case violence, and also then we ask them, of course, and tell them as much as we can, and ask them if they could imagine to be part of this.
We come, or what we were busy with when we studied a lot, was performance art, performance art of the 60s and 70s and so on, and there is a lot of performances that have violence as a content, or there's a question I would ask, for example, because I lately read, a psychoanalysis of Marina Abramovic, or whatever, it's a book. There's somehow a very close connection to this anti-representational impact of performance art with violence, or that it comes from an experienced violence or so, stuff like this. So this maybe somehow where it comes from, and then, or what I said before already, this at the same time would be Asolini, who says some stuff like how to throw the body into the battle in art also, which is an impulse of the whole avant-garde, you could say, in the early 20th century and later in the performance art and so on. So this became a question for us, or as choreographers, that work with the body, but as well want the body to be more present, or the body to be more important, or in society, or in how we deal with life. Or I have this question of how does this gap between language and body, how does it, how can we deal with this? So this is one of the topics that came to our mind. And as we told before as well, just of course we have as well completely abstract artistic motivations that are very far from this. So we had as well done a piece that was more or less the opposite, called Romantic Afternoon, with 6 people kissing on stage for 1 hour. There's a certain violence in this as well, but it's as well very joyful for the people and for the audience as well. It's as well choreographs the body of the audience a lot on a certain effective level. And so that came as well the motivation to do the opposite of this. And this idea to choreograph the body of the audience is still something that in general is important to us.
Yeah, and to add to this quotation that you said, like how to throw the body into the battle. And for us, it's about, or in negotiating or dealing with the topic of violence, of course, how can we throw the body into the battle without sacrificing it, or without actually injuring or hurting it while we want to deal with it.
Because performance arts, of course, often was like, I mean, then there was blood, or the famous performance where Chris Burton gets shot in the arm. But, I mean, you always never know as well if it really happened or not, kind of, because you only have this videotape of it. But of course, a lot of these, that's very, as well, very good score actually. I could do in the workshop. By Akonchi, to Akonchi, it's like one person tries to keep the eyes closed and the other person tries to open the eyes. Yes. But it's a very simple, actually, score, which produces a very violent interaction, kind of, for example.
I mean, just a disclaimer here. I'm a political scientist. I have no idea about theater. I thank the organizer for inviting me for this eye-opening experience. But you know, some of the things I will talk or discuss about is like is from random stuff that I come across in my teaching experience or my research. So I mean, the emotional experience of the audience was horrendous. It's like, I was trying to observe other people, like their reactions to the show, and I think most of them were in horror. And I think, I mean, for performers or choreographers, what were your emotional experiences going through this whole getting ready for this?
It was a journey. Should I start? I mean, of course, you have to find a way to deal with it. There is a lot of actually, as well in the piece, you can sometimes see this kind of taking care of each other as well. There's a lot of negotiating, and I mean, this kind of not sacrificing it, so do something brutal, but as well keep it under control to a certain extent, while still touching kind of a border. And of course, it was the only project of ours, for example, where the performers or dancers really had the need to do something nice with each other. Then after rehearsal, it's like do massage and so on.
Of course, while we developed it, we worked on many different layers, like on the physical, but on the emotional and the text-based parts that are in there. We had many tryouts with working on text, and so of course everybody gives something from themselves or some subjective input, and I think this for everybody in a different way also opened up some different emotions. So of course part of the rehearsals were to also speak about it, or if somebody somebody doesn't is not feeling well, but the person doesn't say it, or like things also are sometimes a bit under.
Is some of the material from performers' experiences as well, like personal experience of violence, or?
No, that's not.
Or yours?
We don't know. The thing is, with violence, you never know.
Of course, what we can say is, for example, many things are coming from the media. We have not, we haven't lived in a war situation or so of course many things we don't know. We just know it from our grandparents or from the media or whatever. So there is a certain things we have never.
Yes, and maybe you had some experience of violence in your youth or such as this. But kind of our one thing as well was, I mean, the basic approach, maybe to say it again, would be how to deal with if suppressing violence always leads to more violence, how to deal with violence, and how to integrate it. And so the process as well was kind of on this, as much as the pieces on this topic, the process was about this as well. And the other thing, of course, is that in a certain way we have to kind of acknowledge as well our perspective or our relationship to violence, which is in a certain way that we are as well part of societies that, I don't know, maybe sometimes we export violence as well to the outside. I mean, one very strong, for me, impulse always was, or that what I always think about, I always have this impression that this whole stuff that's maybe the most documentary in the piece, everything that happened after 9/11 and where the waterboarding is kind of a symbol for as well. I always had the impression that there was a certain breach of civilization there that happened. So that was something as well that came as a motivation or so. And it's kind of strange that we cannot, I don't know, I gave a workshop at that time in Lebanon with Syrian people.
Wow.
And of course they had a completely different relationship to violence. I mean, they were all once in their lives jumped to the floor because outside there was shooting. And this is like not the, it's not a very nice experience, and it's not the experience that we have. And it's like this question of what violence is done in your name, in the name of your society, and so on. And what does this do to you, and can we imagine what is happening somewhere else, and so on, or can we physically imagine what could be done to bodies or what bodies are doing to and criticize it in one way, but try to deal with it.
Right, because I mean that's, the violence is kind of, the phenomenon that we emphasize in the show, but the visuals that we got was more the pain, the body that experiences the pain, and at some point I feel that actors and performers had to treat each other as objects, like, they stop being human, and when that happens, you kind of see them as like, okay, this person being thrown away, the other person being twisted around, and you feel like, that kind of, you start to see them as objects, as with the performers. Yeah, I mean, is that what you kind of want to achieve, or is it more like a side effect?
No, you're right. I mean, while working with the body, part of it is always also to treat it as a material or as an object, also as a dancer. One part of it is always to use your body as a, you use it, so you're looking at something.
But it's a problem at the same time. I mean, it's a bit like it's a problem of every kind of representation, we would say. For example, every role in a certain way objectifies the person in a sense, or makes them do certain stuff. And I don't know, so it's not kind of the goal like that you see people as objects, but that this, to show this perspective or the possibility of this perspective, or that the language as well maybe already implies this perspective to a certain extent, and we cannot avoid it and have to deal with something. This is what we work on.
Well, as we saw it also, like it is part of the violence to treat each other like objects, but also the machinery that's like, it's just going on and on. It doesn't stop. Like you're with one colleague on stage, the system or the structure is reproducing.
Exactly.
Doesn't.
Quite exhausting actually at some point. You kind of like, okay, when is this going to stop? Right? That's like, I don't know if the audience would feel this as well. Like, you were there last night, were you?
I know, but I watched the show in Germany.
Right,
so
right.
I remember it still.
Yeah, when is this going to stop? But then at the same time, conflicting kind of impression I had is that it was very humanizing experience as well, because you kind of want the audience to put themselves in their shoes, like those who are inflicted with pain, right? You kind of want them to imagine themselves in those people's shoes, and waterboarding for me is really shocking, because that's kind of the experiences I've heard from it happens in Thailand almost every day in the south, where we have conflicts and prisoners would be tortured, and waterboarding by the CIA happened here. They used the army base here to torture Al-Qaeda suspects, for example, right? So it's like reality for me, but to see that happening in front of my eyes was really shocking, but at the same time you kind of see the kind of pain they're going through and you kind of humanize with that experience.
I mean, yes, that would not be bad. Or that you find that you can develop compassion somehow. I mean, the contradiction of the piece is somehow that you have to reproduce a certain kind of violence to produce a certain maybe physical compassion with it, and that you kind of maybe, because like for me it's always like, if this is already so bad to see, how bad must it be for like must real violence? Yeah. So it's in a certain way maybe that's something like humanizing perspective that it can create or could create. Or in the piece there's how we observe it, this is well tough for us to see, but there's as well more and more like first under layer the wish to kind of escape or produce something else out of the violence kind of in the piece somehow to find some kind of catharsis or whatever. So I don't know, that maybe you can make an experience of this compassion with people that are in pain because of violence, and as well maybe a motivation that it would be nicer to kind of find a way out, even if we don't make it very easy. I mean, we don't say like, we should all be against. It's not like we don't give an easy solution that we can always say yes to. So then the topic doesn't disappear.
Yeah. Maybe let's just engage with our audience a little bit. What were your experiences watching the performance?
Well, so maybe I think I would like to ask in terms of like the past audience experience. I think it's because yesterday I remember because I noticed myself being in kind of like a really big, a diverse audience. And as you were saying that every country, people from different cultures have different experiences to violence. Some are very near life experience, some are quite far. So during the performance, I find myself being affected by not only the thing on stage, but people around me as well. And maybe because I already saw your show in the video, some of it wasn't that surprising. But then, but people around me were feeling more and more uncomfortable. But at a certain point, I realized I was still okay with it, and that was really scary. I was like, and I started thinking, why am I still okay? Why? And it's a really hard show to share with other people that you like it.
Yes,
absolutely.
I can't, but personally, I can share this today now that I like it, and I think it's in a way it's appropriate for certain people who try to neglect actual violence that's happening. And I think it's in a way I like it because it's very in your face. It's very clinical. So I think my question is that. What has been the experience for your other audiences in other countries? How has it been?
It was also quite diverse in each city in Germany, for example, which we have shown it. So it's difficult to answer actually because everybody, each single audience member has such a different approach or association.
It's very similar, the relationship of every person to violence. Depending on the relation.
And it's also different, I think, in Frankfurt, for example, many people know us, or in Düsseldorf, and this doesn't help so much because some of them really got mad at us, or they said, why are you doing this? And they got very distant to us for some time.
So people have been offended by it.
This happens. I mean, there's something for me as well, like if people that are in charge of the system, which actually you never it's kind of funny.
Yeah, like theater directors.
Usually the theater directors as well in the venues that we show it, they have kind of a hard time because it's a bit done in their name, but as well in a certain way, like I said, the patriarchs, they don't like the piece because the piece shows what they usually don't want to be seen. That's as well a very specific critique that the piece produces. Like the people in charge always want to say like everything is good, you know, like there is maybe sometimes things go bad, but there's not like a structural violence here. So there's always, we bring them in an uncomfortable position as well.
But especially the co-producing theatre directors, of course, they are responsible for what we produce there, and if it's the first time this is to be shown, it's in their name really. So.
And it is a bit what we experience with our shows anyways, we experience this, like that people are, because we choreograph the body of them as well, they are very aware of the others. And
the light is on, like
yes.
really in the audience.
And how to react is always a question, like is my reaction appropriate? You're very kind of stuck with yourself. Yeah, what, like, you would maybe like to react in a certain way, but you don't feel allowed to, and so on. Usually we think it's fine if, for example, people go out that cannot take it.
Yeah, we just told Janjira before that it was the first show yesterday where nobody left, no audience member. So of course this might be a cultural thing that you highlight.
Normally you don't really walk out.
So there were at least 2 or 3 leaving at different moments in the piece.
But what happens as well with our piece usually, sometimes at least when you see pieces of ours for the first time, it takes 2 days or so to process some stuff in it. Like it needs some distance usually. So quite
still
good.
processing, yes.
Also, like in Great Britain, we showed it in Birmingham. There was quite a strong reaction also from some people.
Like negative?
Yeah, in the artist talk we had there was also some rupture, confrontation.
In which context was that presented in the UK?
It was a festival in Birmingham, like for.
But maybe what was a bit, it was a kind of festival where things were shown in a shorter version, and we only showed the first bit of the piece. So maybe then there was a bit the question of where does it develop to, and does it stay on a level of that it affirms violence so much, or does it develop to something else? And I guess that was maybe as well a difficult situation.
For me, one of the greatest discomforts in this work, I feel, for me, is this idea of whether the violence is real or representational. That has been something I was struggling throughout. And then I could see, so there are issues of consent, right? So it seems like the performers were like, okay, I'm going to do this, so, and the other person seemed quite willing about it. Yet at the same time, I couldn't feel like really confronted with this kind of ethical obligation in the face of violence. So especially the performer with the bag around her head, right? So there was like, do I intervene? Is this the Stanley Milgram experiment? Is this the bystander effect? You know, and how do I try to get what signal? So there's one point, and then she rolls over to the side, and she's got her hand moving, and that for me is this whole double-coded image, because she's either saying I'm still alive so I can move, or it could be a distress signal like help me. So it was just this whole conflicting when you step in, when you're not, and then can you just watch, and are you then this voyeur? Are you getting some kind of pleasure from it? And then when the screen comes down, it's like, okay, it's a relief, but at the same time also there's this curiosity. So, so I felt very confronted with all this, like, do I enjoy at any one point of time these spectacles of violence? And what are the ethics of it all?
Very interesting.
May I add a bit? When the screen was down, I actually had the opposite feeling. I felt more uncomfortable when the screen was down.
Right.
Because when you see it, you see it. But when you don't see it, you don't know what's happening. And it's even more, it's scarier for me.
Actually, I have that feeling when it was some kind of a fake burning scene, right? And I knew that it was fake. And you like deliberately show that it was fake. But then when the screen was down, I was like, but the screen was so real. So I felt that like this is not okay, you know? Yeah.
I kept on thinking of pornography actually as I watched because so yes, you can represent violence whatever, but there must be pain, right? So
Yeah.
the pain is sort of like that threshold of violence. And the same thing with sex, of course. I mean, you
Yeah.
can fake, but the orgasm is biological, right?
Yeah.
There is that moment that the status of the real is affirmed in that. And also, I guess, the body that's in pain. I mean, how much of it was acting, how much of it was not. These were things that, I find disturbing throughout the whole performance.
Yes, I mean, of course, it's about this, or it's about this sense for us to do a lot with the body, kind of being not an object, or being kind of a split between language and a real kind of whatever entity. I mean, something that this brings up to me is as well this. You could always have with this show, of course, the impression either it's too much or too less, and changes between being too much and too less all the time, kind of. And this is the difficulty of the object of violence, like that it's, I don't know, then with this thing, then it's too far away or too close, and some stuff the voice is too close, but the image is still, that it's fake and so on. So it's a bit like all different things of how to produce this, represent or darstellen, I don't know if we were speaking, or make it performatively appear the object of violence, or what would that object be, as for example the pieces as well showing a bit like violence can manifest in like super different ways.
Yeah, but it's actually not really possible to grab violence. You can always just be too far or too close somehow, because in the moment when it happens, it's dissolving actually, so then nothing would be visible in a way. So yeah, it's exactly the question.
But of course, there could be the critique, for example. Obvious critique would be to say it's too harmless. Like, it's showing violence as something too harmless. It's kind of how to say it. Like it feels like real violence is worse than this. So this show it kind of represents it as something too nice.
It's not real enough.
Yes.
It's not like real life.
But then it's kind of opposite critique and saying it's pornography, so it's too real. And I don't know, for us that's kind of, I don't know how we generally work. We create this abstract object also that is kind of difficult to pin down, which is maybe why we, what is the choreographic about it? It is about this work with choreographic inscription and all these kind of how this, I mean, there is a sort of oscillation created between that you have to do the waterboarding as a scene, and then the effect that it has every day in a slightly different way as well. It's a bit like it's in a certain way the difference between choreography and dance or something like this, like, which you cannot separate.
I'm thinking of like object theater or puppet effect. How you can be so moved by something that is so obviously not real. Like puppets or objects are representatives of real stories or people or in real life. But you see right there that it's not real people moving. But because of the illusion, you could be so moved by it, even more than putting real people in the situation than real actors sometimes. So yeah, it's just this very interesting effect, because also comparing to Damaged Joy, I find as I watch it too that there would be actions where, because I was in the company and there was one day that we were like giving comments and feedback to the show, and some of us were saying like, this show, you need to show that it's painful in order to have the effect on the audience, in comparison to something like something that could be actually painful for the actors, but for the audience, it doesn't mean anything. So like, the realness of pain is really ambiguous in this case, and how theater as a form could somehow bring that reality, which now is in like big quotation because we don't know what's real anymore, put in place. And so I guess it's like, the pain for the actors and the pain in the audience body are probably not really like equivalent or not in the same realm, or this is very
But I guess it also comes down to, pain is such a basic emotion of humans. I think society is created because when we feel other people's pain, we feel also that it could be our pain, right? And I mean, like the lady next to me, she was like in shock all the time, because I think that was also the famous when you kind of watch a horror movie, even though you know it's fictional, right? And you kind of go, another shopping of body, that kind of thing. You know that it's excessive, you know that it's not really happening, but it's just that you feel for that other person. I think that's a very basic human experience. And I think you translate that very well.
I mean, concerning horror, there's always, there's two main kind of horror genres, also like the physical and the psychological horror.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we, in a certain sense, I guess you could analyze it. It's more like intuitive that we do it, I think. But some stuff plays more on your mind and on.
Like when you can see, but you just hear what's happening.
Yeah.
And some stuff is more like physical, and it goes kind of back and forth. Somehow the physical sometimes has to attest to that something is really happening. And to be kind of the proof of it, and then, but it produces kind of like this unreal. And but just to this, what there was as well a bit the question in the process of this. There was always the question coming up: for what are puppets actually there? Why do we have puppets? Like, of course, like this was just because people we work with were not puppets. But there was this idea, of course, like puppets are there to act out something that you cannot act out, or to experience something that you cannot experience. And somehow puppets in a certain way are quite real, or even sometimes you could say even more. What you do with them is maybe more real, your impulse, than what you do with other human beings, where you kind of try to suppress violence and so on. So there's this kind of, in a certain sense, puppets of course are just an object, whatever, but the function they have is always already quite a strong one in a certain sense. But I would say I'm improvising this a little bit. They are not that neutral object in a certain sense.
On a practical level, you can of course show more or other things with puppets, or like we do it with language. There's this one text, maybe you remember it, that where the one performer, he says all the time, I imagine how it is, I imagine how it's. Or basically these are things we could never show on stage because we cannot hurt our performers. So we don't want them to lose their body parts. So there's many things that you can show in different ways, or which have a different imaginary.
I was also thinking about this aestheticization of violence as well. That's something. And what happens when you take all these units and then you create some choreography out of it, also, right? So, and there's of course a certain kind of beauty in there, but it's a very troubling one. In Hollywood, they glamorize violence, and I can see the criticality in this work towards that. But at the same time, I think there are moments that it reproduces that kind of is this aestheticizing of violence.
Yeah, I mean that's also part of many cultures around the world where violence is glorified. We talked about gender before, because violence is associated with strength, force, and therefore I think it's like hate hunting tribe in the northeastern part of India and like border of Myanmar, and they have this kind of if you are a young man and you transform yourself into like an adult, you have to hunt hate. And that's like glorified violence, because to show that you have transformed to another phase of life. And I think that's not only in movies, or it's actually part of many cultures.
Pro wrestling is.
Wrestling.
I mean,
Wrestling.
Because it's in a certain way in dance. I mean, there's war dance, which is like a very strong anthropological constant, I guess, but which usually in dance is kind of suppressed, or there is no war dance, at least in Western. It's not used like this, or maybe there's in the army, there's some kind of stuff that you could analyze as war dance nowadays, but I know about this, for example. But there is, I don't know, therefore I was saying that Western wrestling is actually dance aesthetics, because it's kind of, it's the suppressed of some, one line of what dance was used to until earlier, and this coming back of that.
But then the question would be, when you kind of approach violence from the aesthetic viewpoint, would you stop feeling pain that others are going through?
I mean, for us it's this kind of slippery thing, or that we think that the show, the violence of the show is created as well, especially through this, that it slips away as well sometimes, so that it is disturbing. If it would be easily recognizable what is real and what's not real, it would not work, and the violence comes as well out of the unclear ontological sense or whatever, what happens at some moment.
Like we find us always working in this project and also in other projects to work on the border of things, like or on the edge, or like where it can fall to the one, it can fall to the one or to the other side somehow, and we try to keep it on the border somehow, so that it can have many different meanings or ambivalent.
But the one as well means to produce this, of course, is aestheticizing, like stylizing things in a certain way, which I didn't know at that time. I understood more.
And I understand that your current projects are kind of has taken a bit of a different direction already from violence to
I don't know. There's always depends. I mean, we did a very huge. I mean, we did this about kissing and some positive emotions, very in a certain sense. Before we did some other projects in between, and we did violent event, and afterwards we did a big trilogy about it's called Unlikely Creatures, and it's about the human being as an unlikely creature, a being that always needs a choreography in a certain sense, because the body is not self-evident, or it's not self-evident how the body works, or even if it's just about very simple things, there's always some kind of meaning or some kind of difference added in every culture, for example, like this never out of language somehow. And so we were dealing with this a lot, but the topics kind of reappear there as well. It was more, I don't know, and then the pieces turned out, the one was more like about the history of this construction in the Western dance history. The second one was really a lot, maybe as well closer to violent event in that sense, about populism and politics, like because it was
the body is political.
Yes, actually about very much this, like the connection of politics and the body, about because like a lot of these populist approaches.
How would you kind of translate that? You know, like populism from these like political analysts and all of that. How would you translate that into performance art?
I mean, how we did it. I mean, because of course, like dance aesthetics or how you produce the body always has a certain ideology.
Yeah, that represent populism.
We had, for example, a quite monumental soundtrack. I mean, playing along with this aestheticizing stuff, or just like how the body is used, or quoting how the body is used in different contexts, and
quotes from politicians
and so on. So I don't know, it worked actually quite well. How did you do that?
The setting was in that particular
piece,
it was like an arena stage, so there was a stage, and the audience would crowd around it, and the bodies would have been seen from many different perspectives, and the audience sees each other also all the time.
And dance has actually kind of close affinity to this, that dance can represent, for example, harmony, or was used in the 16th century, for example, to represent in the ballet de cour like a political harmony as a solution, for example. So if you have very ideological pictures that you can produce with dance, and you can make them clash and change and so on, so it's actually you can show that, I think. I don't know, because from our perspective, politics always needs choreography.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's even a study on populism from a performative perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, because politicians perform, and they actually choreographed by someone or themselves all the time. And I think populists are big in that. They have to perform to the audience, right? And I think, like, I mean, for me, performance is interesting because you would never understand politics unless you understand performance. Because it's always about performing to the public, right? Yeah. Projecting something to the public.
Actually, there's a research too that Thailand is a performative state.
Oh, yes.
Like, yeah, it's very important to perform in all levels of the politics, like the people, the government, and you need very explicit rituals and formal expressions and things in order to be considered state or acceptable, normal, or.
Yeah, I would say that this is well unavoidable in a certain sense because the law itself as an abstract entity does not exist. It always needs to be like somebody embodying it.
Yeah.
Like so there's always this excess already added to what we would prefer to be completely rational system or whatever.
Of course, everybody themselves knows how to should behave in which situation already. This they do play different characters or roles, or you use different choreography in your daily life.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Interesting. Others want to jump in? I mean, any questions or responses to the performance?
I think it's a very good show, and also the host talk is very important to this show. Otherwise, it feels like really like
Unsettled.
I don't know how to process it alone. I need to kind of like bring it out and just kind of like release out of this feeling a little bit. And yesterday, my dad almost made it to the show. I'm glad that he didn't, because it was quite new to this like kind of performance, and I don't know, it would be.
Maybe you would have an interesting talk.
Yeah, it would be like the first show, and it was like, what is this? But yeah, I think it is kind of like you have many mixed feelings, and also with the medium that you use, how it's choreographed, and my favorite part is the burning part too, with that come down, and even though I can move to see like behind the curtains and still feel like a lot, it's really effective how you use the light, how you use the reflective and the sound, everything, even though it's choreographed, and it's always like the feeling is it's mixed, very mixed. It's like sometimes you feel like, wow, it's so beautiful, it's so nice, and when you hear the scream, it's like, oh, it's like, oh my God, it's like it's just too real, and that is kind of like the kind of like what is impression of this show for me is kind of like really bring out, provoke some ideas and the topics to kind of like, okay, let's talk about this and then let's discuss about it more, and it's kind of like make it more than just that one show. It's kind of like radiate out to kind of become like more like a social event to talk about this thing. So I really liked it. And it's also like similar feeling to After Damage Joy too. It's kind of like playing a lot with the audience role to witness what is happening on stage, and the intention, and we almost don't know what is real. This is like a part of the rehearsed acting, or it's just a fail perform, or but they just need to kind of like continue. And things just had the show must go on, and then we still need to kind of like look at it. Even though some of the show is kind of like, okay, you could be more involved with the show, but this one, the setting is quite clear. It's like, okay, you're the audience, you're there. And it's just kind of like, okay, how much can I stay involved with this? Even though I cannot wave the flags, but with my feeling, I already involved with this. And yeah, it's never ends. Yeah.
Or maybe even some violence would never be completed without the audience. Someone has to see it in order for it to be performed.
Yes, but
and actually, I think she's left, but her point is very interesting because Thai society is very used to violence. And I mean, we have like tabloid news every day is about crimes and someone killing someone with the most brutal possible way that humans can imagine. So, I mean, maybe politeness is part of the reason people to leave, but also like getting used to it is another reason. Yeah, I don't know if, it would be interesting if you have a performance like this in, say, the Philippines or Colombia or, you know, countries that have experienced like high level of violence in everyday life. Yeah. So they're not disturbed by that.
Just go on because it's boring.
Actually, Siri told us that she was sitting next to two Indonesian people. I think that for that, where there's a lot of
strong reaction.
Yeah, quite strong reaction concerning physical violence, because I guess it's
You can also relate with that too. Yeah. All right. Any one last burning comment?
I've been watching it. That's the thing. But I read a little about water body, and recently, I mean, okay, I'm not previous. I work in human rights now, so I have to say. So I started to develop my interest in like this type of torture, basically, because I mean, if you done correctly, from what I read, it's not doing any harm to your body, but it plays a lot with your mental state, basically.
Yes.
So how does it actually feel? I mean, I actually want to be with myself, but
I
don't trust people who gonna do it to me, you know? I mean, like 10 seconds longer than it has supposed to be done, I can die. So, but how does it feel?
You want to try?
I actually want to try.
We have a workshop, no?
Have a workshop on torture.
Because someone just died in the deep south because of this water body.
I think you can do it.
The thing is, we believe that the soldier didn't want him to die, but they didn't know how to. Yeah, they didn't know how to do it properly. So like,
I don't believe that.
10 seconds longer, I mean, it can cause like serious effect to the body.
I mean, we
Well,
tried
you
it
wouldn't
out.
believe the stupidity of
Okay, how does it feel?
It's really intense. I mean, because it really closes down your whole breathing ability very quickly, and you. It really feels like drowning or something like this. It feels like you cannot escape. It's just as well as too basic, like that you can breathe. That that just your whole thinking stops or whatever. You cannot have any thought about this, or like cannot have a distance or so. I guess afterwards, but it's very strong in the sense. I don't believe that you would not realize if somebody dies while you do that.
Just with your
Like you have like very long, very intense struggling, and almost immediately. So if you have to go on quite long and see how this struggling ends, I guess it's a bit similar to the famous movie scenes when somebody's killed with a pillow. I guess.
Yeah.
You kind of, I think you would witness this that the body starts not resisting anymore, and then you would have to stop.
That was too late already. I mean, when the body stopped resisting, you know what I mean? Like, if the person didn't have enough experience in doing this, and when the body stopped resisting, so it's too late already. So that was the case.
But sometimes with torture, it keeps happening like it's repetitive. I mean, someone would be waterboarded like twice a day, and you know, if your body is weak, you just go.
Yeah. You wouldn't even show signs. I mean,
Yeah. But because I mean, this is kind of new ways of torture, because sometimes they teach that to students, and actually the effect is not supposed to be on your body physically. It's supposed to mess up with your head. It's supposed to make you feel that you are dying, but you're not actually dying, right? And they're very creative about this. I mean, your show kind of demonstrates that violence can be very creative, and actually torture is historically very creative.
Yes. No, but I mean, there's a bit. I mean, of course, that's all very sad and bad and so on. But the psychoanalytic perspective can be. I I mean, as well, not to only moralize about it, because we need aggression to a certain extent or whatever. So that's a tricky bit there. There would not be creativity without aggression, without that you want to do something. But then, of course, how to channel it that it doesn't lead to that.
Power.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Do you want to say something?
No, I was just, I don't know, it's just a thing in the production, there had been a replacement of one of the performers that does the waterboarding, and the person that's new, that hasn't done the development of the piece with us, he is asthmatic. So, of course, he has a different psychological, emotional relation to that scene than, for example, the performer who has done it until a few years ago. So, that part is very important because, of course, he has another, but we negotiate and well, it's all rehearsed and fine, of course, but yeah, the psychological part of it is very important.
I mean, we can discuss about violence
Forever. It goes down.
And I just came from my class on non-violence. So on that positive note, thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for Sebastian and Verena.
Thank you.
A big round of applause for the two.
Yeah.